All right, that's the notification I need. Welcome to the Process Show, everybody. Monday morning, well, almost Monday afternoon, at least if you're on the East Coast. Time to break down, I think, a little bit of talk about the NFL from yesterday. And then we've got a large slate of pitching and some interesting ownership. So I think we'll take a look there. Adam, how was your weekend?
It was pretty good, pretty relaxing. Weather sucked here, so kind of just stayed inside, hit the bar a little bit yesterday afternoon before the Sunday night game. It was a nice break, I think, and ready to get back to it.
Yeah, I was talking to Jake this morning. I don't know what it is, but I woke up today like super interested in grinding hard in DFS. I don't know why. I mean, it shouldn't be a time to do that. This is arguably the ugliest baseball has looked. Some of these teams are just super dreadful, but for some reason I want to close strong. So I'm
Yeah,
digging in very deep today.
yeah, I want to close strong too. I think my will to do it is a little bit less than yours, but um, it would be nice.
Sure. Sure. So I think we're going to touch on NFL a little bit to start, and then dial into some baseball. And there was a lesson that I learned yesterday for the NFL. And unfortunately, I learned that lesson also at the end of the live stream. I should probably go grab the clip, but I very specifically said, I have, let's see, what were my final numbers? 18% Matt Ryan on FanDuel, 23% on DraftKings. Very, very heavy into Matt Ryan yesterday. And my final, let's not talk about my Aguilar call. Uh, my final statement on my Falcon stack was, I really hope that Ridley isn't the guy that comes to beat me. I just realized I don't have any shares. And I did at one point. I had like 3 or 4%, but my final crunch pulled him. I realized I did a final crunch after I already had my lineups in because I noticed that I was super underweight on Gio Bernard, and I wanted to push that up because they only had 2 healthy running backs. It just felt like a really safe spot for me to be. Not the actual logistics of that play aren't that important. But when I did that, it pulled all of my Calvin Ridley shares from the Falcons out of DraftKings. It pulled all of my Calvin Ridley shares out of FanDuel. I didn't have a single bullet of Ridley. And I think it's something that I want to point out to everyone, not as a lesson in like revisionist history. Oh, I should have smashed Ridley because I had Matt Ryan. But Matt Ryan was very clearly the stand that I was taking at quarterback yesterday. I was 3 times the projected field on DraftKings. I was 3 times the projected field on FanDuel. And if you're going to take a stand like that, I think that you need to make a very clear decision to at least have a share of all of the guys that do get targets. It's not like Ridley came out of nowhere, had a big week 2, and he's just a guy that I missed in getting back into the lineups. He was part of all my groups on Fantasy Cruncher for Atlanta. But if I'm going to have that sort of percentage of Ryan, I need to have at least 1 lineup or 2 lineups that are getting all of the potential pass catchers, so that when things happen where Calvin Ridley has 100 plus yards and TDs and stuff, that I at least have a lifeline for it. If you're going to go that crazy on one quarterback, you should be differentiating with the rest of the potential receivers. So that's a big miss on my part. And it's super regretful, obviously, because of how Ridley's night paid out. But I'm going to set up checks and balances in my spreadsheet moving forward so that it doesn't happen again. Just generically, would you feel the same sort of thought process if you noticed that for yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you're taking a stand like that, you want to win, like kind of no matter how that game breaks down. If Matt Ryan has a good game, you want some, really, really good lineups. And it's not like, like you said with revisionist history, it just so happens that in this case it was Calvin Ridley. But if you had a bunch of Calvin Ridley and ended up with no Austin Hooper, for example, like it would still be the same mistake. It wouldn't
Yes.
have cost you, but it would still be the same mistake where there's going to be games where Matt Ryan goes off to Hooper. There's going to be games where he goes off to Ridley. There's going to be games where he maybe goes off to Sanu. You just should have had obviously combinations with all those guys if you're going to take a stand like that.
Right.
Like we were talking before the show, it was a mistake I made week 1 when I was very, very heavy on everyone on the Saints. and even on a bunch of Saints like onslaught lineups. But there was so much value in week 1 that I decided not to really at all go to the Tampa Bay side because I didn't know where production would come from. I thought there was a decent chance that they scored points, but that it was kind of spread out. And I was like, whatever, I'll just, be contrarian by being so heavy on the Saints, and I'll fill in with like the good value plays. Obviously, it was just stupid though. Like if I'm going that heavy on the Saints, I should have had, some lineups where I had the good value plays, but I should have had, at least some spots where I was on Tampa as well.
Right.
Just to, maximize upside. And if your stand pays off, you don't want your stand to pay off and then you still have like a mediocre week because you didn't, at least have some shares of a pretty, obvious outcome.
Exactly. And again, like we're projecting 4% ownership for Ridley on DK, 3% on FanDuel. I had 4% Sanu. I had 3% on FanDuel. Like that's all I needed. 1 line, 2 lines, just have Ridley in it as well. He was 3,700 on DraftKings. Even just selecting Matt Ryan after you do the crunch, giving it a visual. Oh, I don't see Ridley. Find the one value play that's in there. He's 3,700. You can fit him in no matter what. However that lineup got built previously, you can hot swap to a Calvin Ridley line if you're paying attention. And that was my problem. I wasn't paying attention. I'm going to build out a sheet that shows me that a little bit clearer, that will highlight guys that are flat zeros that I know that I have in groups so that I don't do that again. It's one thing if you only have like 2 lineups out of 150 with a quarterback, but when you're running out, 20+% of a guy, I think I made a very, very big mistake that I'm learning from by not going to a little bit of Calvin Ridley. Like I didn't have Ito Smith in any groups. I wouldn't have regretted that one, but Ridley was a part of it. He just never came up in everything that I crunched.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you're going that heavy on Ryan, you need at least some shares of Ridley, of Hooper, of Coleman, obviously Julio.
Yeah.
Sanu. Like those are the guys where you're gonna regret it if they go off and you don't have them.
Right.
If Ito Smith has a monster game, then whatever.
Exactly. Like Ridley gets his looks. He's just the last guy on the totem pole, and that just happened to work out this week. But I'm happy that it worked out that way because it had to happen eventually. It's just a learning mechanism. I also won a Chick-fil-A bet yesterday against Chris, but go ahead, finish your thought.
Oh, no, I was just going to agree with you. And I think it's something that you really, really pay attention to it if you're just starting to get into, max entry more, or you're getting more familiar with Cruncher. I know I still do it a lot, but, even going back to previous seasons where I really was new to Cruncher, I made so many mistakes like that where I would, go back through my lineups. I'd be like, oh, I know I was heavy on this guy. I was heavy on that. Where the hell are my lineups that are, that should be winning? And, I'd go back and it would be so many kind of just careless mistakes in roster construction if you're not careful with your groups or careful with actually manually double checking your lineups and making sure they make sense.
Yeah. And it's something that I don't generally pay that much attention to on the NBA side. It's not something that I generally pay that much attention to on the baseball side, but NFL is a very unique style for DFS, completely unique in my opinion compared to any other sport that we play. So it's retraining my brain to put in a little bit of extra work on the back end so that this sort of stuff doesn't slip through the cracks, because that should have stood out like a sore thumb for me and it didn't. And I hate myself for it because it probably cost me maybe some money. It doesn't necessarily have to, but with having that many shares of Matt Ryan, if I get 1 or 2 lines with Ridley, they have a much better chance of sliding real high up a potential leaderboard.
Yeah, I pay attention to it a little. I pay attention to it with basketball too, just because there are a lot of spots where I won't put someone in a group like, not to play them. Like they'll kind of negatively correlate, but not enough where I want to set groups for, every single team and, different guys. But then I'll go through lineups and it'll kind of be like, okay, like if this guy has a big game, the lineups probably play out, small or big or whatever. And I don't necessarily want these two in the same lineup. So NBA, I'll actually go through manually and kind of just make some manual pivots like that too.
Makes sense. Gotta mute Slack quickly so I don't get continued notifications. Well, I want to get your take on the bet that I made with Chris during our live stream. The bet was that Pat Mahomes would not be a top 3 scoring quarterback on DraftKings. I had lost a bet to Chris the week before. God, I don't even remember what the bet was. It was when I was in Asheville for the Hurricane. So he gave me double or nothing on the bet, and I very much took that bet. And I was not looking great at halftime. Mahomes
Yeah.
off to an excellent start. I thought I was sunk, and it turned out to be correct. So I'd love to get your thoughts just on that bet.
Raw points, right?
Raw points, raw DK scoring.
Yeah.
He finished fifth.
I don't know that I would have taken it. I'm also a huge like Mahomes fan. But I think like top 3 is probably where I would have set the line. Like if he had said top 4, I definitely would not have taken it. If he had said top 2, like I would take it with any quarterback.
Sure.
So yeah, 3 I think is where I would have set the line. I probably would have leaned towards him being there just because like Kansas City's offense is so explosive and he can score so many different ways. But yeah, I mean, it seems like a pretty fair line.
I've been playing around with a sim similar to my baseball sim, and Mahomes was my highest probability of being a top 3 scorer, but I only had it at 25%, and it makes me feel like the deviations aren't high enough. Do you think that number is way too low?
No, I mean 20. You're talking about what was it, like a 13 game slate? So 26 quarterbacks.
Yep.
I mean 25% is a really high number.
Okay.
Especially
I felt similar.
Especially in that slate. Like you had you had that game with the 54 or whatever total, but like Garoppolo is a competent quarterback on the other side there.
Yep.
You had 2 very competent quarterbacks in the Saints game that had 53 and a half total. So I mean that's 4 guys right there that could very easily be the highest scorer, and that's without factoring in that guys like Deshaun Watson and Cam Newton have that kind of upside any given week because of their running ability. So yeah, I think that 25% is probably a pretty reasonable number.
Okay, that's the first I've had anybody to give it a second set of eyes, so makes me feel pretty good there. And that's why I took it. I was like, okay, 25%. I'm in a double or nothing game, so this is basically like a wash for me. If my numbers are right, then I'm in good shape.
Yeah.
And I got lucky. I got bailed out. I'm not.
And I said top 4 was where I would like definitely take Mahomes. So I would definitely say I agree with like 25%.
Let's see. Let me see what I have the numbers at if I set it to top 4 instead of top 3, because I can do that quickly. Less than 5. All right. If Mahomes was top, I have Mahomes top 4 in 32%. It feels a little low, but I guess that probably makes sense. It's only 1 notch, so.
Right. Yeah.
And most of my, outside of the bet, most of my aversion to Mahomes yesterday was the fact that he was the second most expensive quarterback and chalk. And it was, to me, really difficult to try to be overweight on something like that while still stacking the Chiefs and getting unique lineup construction.
So I think that's something I kind of tweeted about it yesterday. That's the spot where I think going forward, you're probably going to be contrarian. And so by playing like naked Pat Mahomes with the Chiefs, receivers and everyone with their prices increasing, and with common, roster construction being that everyone just creates these lineups where they're stacking. I think that going forward, playing naked Mahomes is going to be a really good strategy because he spreads it out so much, and there's going to be so many games where Kelsey and Hill and Watkins and whoever, they have good games, but they don't smash their price tags because they're expensive. But Mahomes can still smash his because he just spreads it around. He can run, he can rush for touchdowns. Like I think that that's how I'm going to start approaching him. And even if he's popular, I can get kind of unique roster constructions by just playing him without stacks. Maybe bring it back with someone from the other team for sure, but you don't need to pair him with guys now that they're expensive.
Yeah, I'd like to grab one of the contest files and see what the stack breakdown was for Mahomes, because I bet it was very heavy, whether it was Watkins or Kelsey, or I mean, if people got to Mahomes Hill combos, good for you.
Right. I mean, yeah,
and so much salary.
All you have to do is look at Sammy Watkins' ownership yesterday. He was, I think, 13% in the $9 slant on DraftKings, and obviously he had upside. But you're talking about in a price range with Allen Robinson and Robert Woods and, who else is in there? Demaryius Thomas. Like, there's no way in hell Sammy Watkins is 13% other than the fact that everyone is stacking the Chiefs. And he was the easiest guy to stack with Mahomes in like an optimal roster construction where you're paying down at tight end, which takes you off Kelsey. You're not paying all the way up for Tyreek Hill. You're taking value running backs plus Kamara or Gurley or whoever. He was just like the natural guy, and that's why you saw him be 13% owned in a pretty stacked wide receiver range.
Right. 100%. Yeah, I think people were mistaking like my take as I don't like Mahomes for the day. I mean, it was an excellent cash play. It was clearly an excellent spot. I just had a lot of trouble getting to him in a GPP because I didn't see it as viable for him to go. Now that his price is where it's at, for him to be like at the top, you either need to get really lucky with a naked Mahomes, or he has like another 6 touchdown game, which, look, if he did that again, kudos, you tip your hat and you walk away. But I mean, the matchup for Mahomes in general was great. It's just it's a play against the price. And then, anytime that I can make a bet against Chris, I'm just going to take like an oddly large stand against it for the fact that you're, making a bet with someone. So you just naturally talk more shit.
Right. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's the only way to do it. You said you only played like a few lineups yesterday for the NFL?
Yeah, I wasn't planning on playing any at all, and then plans kind of fall through, so I threw together, I think, like 7 DraftKings lineups. Yeah, I mean, I had one interesting one that actually I was talking to you about a dumbass mistake I made. I had one good lineup going into the 4 o'clock games: Deshaun Watson with Fuller, Saquon Barkley running it back, Kamara, Calvin Ridley one off, and I had 5,400 at wide receiver, and I hadn't really researched NFL, closely at all. I kind of just was following Twitter and making kind of educated guesses at what I wanted to do. And so I was like, okay, like this is actually a good lineup. I have 5,400 receiver going into the 4 o'clock games. I should probably figure out if I want to play Allen Robinson or Robert Woods here. And I had Robinson in, and everyone that I kind of texted that I valued like their NFL opinion was like, that's a really close spot. One went with Robinson, one went with Woods. I was like, okay, I should probably like go on PFF and try and figure this out. And so I looked and saw Allen Robinson started at 425. It was like 3:45 or whatever. I was like, oh, I have time, like no big deal, whatever. Stopped paying attention to the clock. Didn't even look at what time Robert Woods' game started. Like 4:07, I was like, all right, I think it's really close too, but I think Woods has the higher like raw ceiling, and that's what I need. So I'll go there, and I go to click him in on DraftKings, and he's locked because I'm an idiot and didn't look at what time it was, didn't look at when his game started. And so then I got to watch Robert Woods crush and Allen Robinson catch like 2 passes. Definitely got what I deserved.
God, the Bears are bad.
Yeah.
They're so bad. Mitch Trubisky is so bad.
You excited for Josh Rosen week?
Is anybody besides like Rosen's family? And I guess maybe Cardinals fans, because you have to be more excited than Bradford. Eric Wilson, right. I appreciate that you agree with me. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, they can't get any worse. That offense is absolutely putrid.
Yeah, and I mean, anytime you can take David Johnson off the field on crucial plays, you should definitely do it.
Is there anybody more angry right now than David Johnson fantasy owners? I guess Le'Veon Bell fantasy owners?
Yeah, but at least they have like Le'Veon Bell fantasy owners have to feel like they have more upside than the David Johnson ones right now, right?
100%. Like, you have to.
Whenever Bell comes back, you do have a stud, most likely.
Yeah, look, when push comes to shove, if you can tread water until Bell gets back, you're really just happy that you make the playoffs and then have him for the playoffs. Right. I mean, you can conceivably sit David Johnson in your playoffs at this point, depending on who Arizona plays those weeks.
It's just so frustrating. Like, how do you not... Any issues the Cardinals offense has had in the past was not David Johnson usage. Like, just look at what they did with him last year and do the exact same thing.
Yeah. It's so silly.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like coaches just come in and recreate, like they're just trying to create like their own way to be successful. And so many times it's, oh, well, I'm going to just completely change the way this guy was used, even though he was the best, one of the best players in the league.
All right, quick hit question here. Has nothing to do with process. Where does Le'Veon Bell end up?
I would have said the Niners if Garoppolo hadn't gotten hurt.
I'll pour one out for Jimmy G.
Yeah. Now Pittsburgh, like nothing else really makes sense. If you looked at the list of teams that Field Yates tweeted out that have the cap room for Bell this year, if you look at who would actually need a running back and who actually has a decent team, it gets you down to like the Texans and the Colts. And I don't know, like unless they have to give up literally nothing, I don't really think Le'Veon Bell is like the difference maker for either team.
You said Field Yates tweeted it out?
Yeah.
God, I'm never gonna
Yeah, it
find
was
Okay,
like
here we go.
Browns, Saints. You got it.
Browns, Colts, Texans, Titans, Cowboys, Niners, Jets, and Jaguars. I mean, he's clearly not going to the Jags.
Right. Like that would be the team that makes a lot of sense if like Fournette were out for the year.
Right.
I mean, like Bell can really, really like that offense would be incredible.
I mean, the Browns would be squirrely. I can't see it happening, but that would be a very, very, very interesting fit for that team right now.
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess like mentally, I just write off the Browns as like, LOL, you need so much more, but they actually do have talent. It's just a matter of not using it. But
yeah, like
I'm
I
also
mean, that makes it interesting to not take Barkley like they did if they
right.
can just
I'm also
somehow
a big
like
fan,
okay.
but
Colts, that's just not happening.
right.
Texans, not happening. I can't see it.
Right, like none of those teams.
Clearly not going to the Titans. Clearly not
going.
going to the Cowboys. Clearly not going to the Jets. I would imagine.
The only thing I thought of with the Cowboys was like, what if they just made him a pure slot receiver?
I mean, you can make some really interesting looks. But like that's the stuff I wonder. What could you do if you had Bell and Zeke in a backfield?
Right.
Like I always want to do dumb stuff like that. It makes me want to buy Madden right now. Run Dak from the shotgun with one of those dudes on one side, one of those dudes on the other side, and like just see how weird you can get. That's got to be an incredibly tough thing to track.
Yeah, but it's basically the old Madden strategy of just get as much speed as possible and then figure out like later how to make it work.
Start doing like read options, and then like all of a sudden Bell is already up the sideline on the opposite side. Like,
yeah, it would be a nightmare to defend. Like if you ran some kind of basically new version of the Wildcat.
Yeah, man, that could be fun. I might buy
Yeah,
Madden.
I doubt it happens, but it's not like the Cowboys have receivers either.
Right. I think the Browns would be interesting. I'm sure they still have a wealth of draft picks.
Yeah, I'm gonna be if he goes to the Browns, I'll just be even more upset that Josh Gordon isn't still there.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think that one's just too big for me to like weigh in with an opinion. They have been dealing with him in so many ways for so many years that at some point in time you just kind of get sick of it.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I'm just from like a selfish
perspective. Yeah, I gotcha.
I would really have liked to see him play with Baker Mayfield, and if it ends up being Baker Mayfield and Le'Veon Bell, like I would just be even more intrigued in seeing what Josh Gordon could do.
I wish it wasn't the middle of the week. What were the playoff odds on Football Outsiders for the Browns right now?
I have no idea.
Playoff odds through week 2. Well, they had a 4.2% chance of winning the number 1 pick, so I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that this is not going to be a very high number. Browns to win the what the hell is it? AFC North was 6% to win in division, 12% to make the playoffs. Let's say that holds true. Let's say they get Le'Veon Bell for week 4. So they're 1-1-1. That's actually going to go up. It's going to be much higher than 12% now. What is Le'Veon? If the Browns get Le'Veon Bell, what are their odds of making the playoffs? It was 12% before Thursday's victory.
Unless he becomes their head coach, like 18%, 15%. I don't know. I just, how much does he actually? Because when we're talking about the Browns, you have to take into account that they're probably going to completely misuse him, and he'll still be really good and he'll still be valuable, but he won't be as valuable as he is with the Steelers or as he would be with a competent coaching staff.
You're probably right. Oh man, and not that I was expecting it to jump to like 50% or anything. It would be an interesting play for them if they just wanted to go in, because if they've got Mayfield now at quarterback, then they can follow that sort of Eagles model or the new model. Because of the way that the salary cap is rising, they can have that locked in cheap quarterback option and afford to pay Bell now if you need to, and then just tap out in 2 years if you have to. It's a different setup now in the NFL than it used to be.
I'd have to imagine that out of the teams on that list, Bell would most like to go to the Browns.
You think?
Just to play Pittsburgh twice a year.
Oh yeah, well once now.
Well, right, yeah. The Des Bryant reasoning.
Yeah. That could be, man, that would be fun. Unless he
My
lands
sister's a
it.
Steelers fan. I want it to happen just so she loses her mind.
I just want it to happen because it's fun. I wonder what it would take to, like, I can't even imagine what that trade would be.
Yeah, I'm interested to see like what kind of value they would actually get for him.
It can't be much, right?
No. So he would have to sign before the trade, though, right? They can't trade him now.
That would be my guess. I don't know
Yeah.
enough about it.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure he has to actually sign the franchise tag.
Well, that has nothing to do with process, but let's talk process. Let's talk baseball for today. We have just a sea of high-end pitching. Kluber, Strasburg, Tyon, Kershaw, Ray, Paxton, Jack Flaherty, Hamels, if you want to get super weird. God. I think Corey Kluber might be under-owned at 35% for that matchup today. Somebody in our chat earlier today said, like, I prefer Strasburg. Kluber's got nothing to play for. I mean, if you're taking that stance, what exactly is Steven Strasburg playing for today?
Right. Yeah, I don't. I hate that. Like, so I guess a quick tangent, like, because it comes up a lot this time of year, obviously, as far as what teams are playing for. If you want to take the stance that teams are going to be quicker to pinch hit for guys or make substitutions late in games, if to see more, to evaluate talent that they have on their bench in the minor, that's called up from the minor leagues, then fine. I think from that aspect it makes sense. But as far as guys that are playing being different because they are or are not playing for anything, I think it's just total like bullshit. Like
I agree.
they're professional athletes. Corey Kluber is not going out there like, we don't have to win this game. I'm gonna give up 6 runs today. I don't give a
Throwing
shit.
shit sidearm and stuff like it's
Right.
a tennis
Yeah,
ball game with your friends. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, these guys are. You don't get to where they're at by not being like one of the most insanely competitive people in the world. They're not just going to go out there like, yeah, I don't really care. I mean, it's the Marlins. We're out of the playoff race. I don't care. If I pitch well, I pitch well. If I don't pitch well, I don't care. Like,
Right,
I'm gonna have
the amount of time
like,
that he has to spend to just get like ready to go out on the field. You're not just going to spend all that time like stretching and loosening up and stuff to just go out and be like, nah, fuck it.
right.
No, he's going out to mow people down.
Yeah, it's I don't know, anyone who played sports growing up. If you played on bad teams, like I don't know, I played on my share of teams that weren't that good. You still went out there and you like busted your ass. And then now imagine that you're doing that in front of a bunch of people. You're gonna be on like ESPN if you look like an idiot.
Yeah. And it's your job and you get paid millions of dollars for it. Like, not that that's right. I don't mean it in any sort of way, but like it's the only thing that Corey Kluber really has to do for the next week. And he just has to go out and do it for like an hour and a half to 2 hours. He's good.
Yeah.
He's good. It's not going to be... It doesn't mean he can't get blown up, but like to think that he's just going out there with like some laissez-faire attitude is just not true.
Right. Yeah, and it's the same for hitters. It's, this guy, he doesn't care anymore. Yeah, yes, he does.
Yeah. It's not like Stanton's going up there and flipping his helmet around and batting from the left side or something. Right. Like, it's just... That's not what's happening here. So what do you like most at the top if I tell you that the ownership is 35% Kluber, 28% Strasburg, 26% Paxton, 17% Kershaw? Then we have guys like Tyon and Robbie Ray, basically unowned.
Kershaw.
Okay, really? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily disagree. I like Kershaw more than Strasburg for sure. I
like whoever's the lowest owned out of Kershaw and Paxton, because I think that their price tag. So I think Kershaw is. I've gotten the impression on Twitter lately I'm higher on Kershaw than most people are.
The rest of those people are nuts. You're right.
I mean, yeah, it's just it. And also, I got the impression when he was 11% owned the other day. Granted, he sucked, but it was a slate similar to this, and he was 11% owned, and I felt really good about it until he started pitching. But anyway, I think that Kershaw's still a very good pitcher. I think that his strikeout upside, for the most part, is back. So I really like him at a discount and lower ownership, than Kluber. Like, obviously, it's a tougher matchup, but I think that the price discount and the ownership discount's enough. Paxton, I think, is pretty significantly underpriced as well. So if you told me that Paxton was going to be 15 and Kershaw was going to be 25, I would take Paxton. But if you're telling me Kershaw is the lowest owned out of a group, out of that group, I'll take her.
Yeah, we brought it up on the show earlier today. Would you be nervous at all that Paxton hasn't thrown in like 2.5 weeks?
I'm nervous every time Paxton pitches.
That's fair. That's what I said.
Yeah.
I was like, normally when he gets out there, it's either going really well or he's out in like the first third of the inning.
Yeah, for a pitcher as good as he is, he's one of the most like polarized as far as individual game outcomes.
For real. Okay, so you like Clayton Kershaw, particularly at 17% ownership. What do you think about Robbie Ray at 1% ownership? Same game.
It's such a bad matchup, and I still do buy into the God, is the roof open there again tonight?
I have no idea.
I'm just looking at like Fantasy Labs page, and it doesn't say roof closed.
Not
So
familiar
if the
with this
roof,
website you speak of. There's probably other places to find that.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, my bad.
you're
But
good.
yeah. So I mean, they've had the roof open there. That does downgrade both of these pitchers if it's open.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't know.
You
just
can't
still in
downgrade
general.
Robbie Ray much further than not owned.
Right. Yeah. I just still I think I'd rather go to the Dodgers here. They're actually priced down a little bit, and Ray at home over the last couple of years has just been awful.
Yeah.
And it makes sense because he specifically talked in the offseason about hoping that the humidor made it so that the ball was easier to grip and everything. And we haven't really seen a big change in we haven't seen an improvement in him at home. And there was even some analysis done. I don't remember who did it, but there was some analysis done around the All-Star break evaluating the effects of the humidor at Chase Field and comparing it to, hypotheses from the offseason. And, hard hit, like exit velocity was down like we expected it to be. Runs were down like we expected it to be. But one thing that didn't really change was strikeout minus walk percentage. It was expected that strikeouts would go up, walks would go down because it would increase the grip. It would improve the grip on the baseball,
Yeah.
and that really hadn't changed. So that I still think that maybe those home road splits for Ray are real. And then you factor in this matchup against one of the toughest matchups in baseball. I would actually side with the Dodgers here.
I don't disagree at all. I have quite a bit of Dodgers on FanDuel. They're super, super cheap. EMAC saying roof open the rest of the week. Arizona just soaking in the sun.
Yeah. All right. So I guess I kind of have to side then with cheaper Paxton at fit in 55-degree like Safeco.
Do you want to side with unowned Jamison Tyon at 10.5?
I do not at all in any way, shape, or form. He's someone that I much prefer when he's pitching in PNC. I prefer him against righties. Not really the case at all in this game, and now he's as expensive probably as we've seen all season.
Okay. I think that's fair. Yeah, I think Kluber's the guy that I'm just going to go.
Tyler
if ownership
Anderson
stays similar, I would rather have like 55-60% Kluber and just hope for the best against the White Sox.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with that too. The price tag's just still cheap on him. I do expect
10.9's insane.
Yeah. Do our ownership projections still have Severino in?
Probably.
So I think that makes a big difference in Kluber ownership.
You'll think it brings it.
It'll go Severino
up.
out.
Yeah.
Ownership goes
up. No, Severino is not in the ownership.
Okay.
I don't think he was in the ownership. I don't think we have Gray either. I don't know who we have. Let me grab it.
Tyler Anderson just scratched. It's now John. Oh God, it's John Gray at 8K.
Wait. Oh God. Okay.
I'm really disappointed. I was excited about Tyler Anderson.
Didn't Gray throw yesterday?
I
mean, he clearly didn't. So I don't know why I'm saying it out loud. If he did, he's certainly not starting today. Why even say it out loud, man? God, I'm so stupid sometimes. I knew the answer before it even came out of my mouth. I already hated myself. Yeah, he threw on the 17th. All right, well, let me just flip that to John Gray, I guess, and I could take a look and see what it does. So I went from having no Grays pitching today to having 2 Grays pitching today.
Yeah.
Jake's probably losing his mind right now because he was riding the Tyler Anderson train.
Okay, yeah. So me and Jake probably both just saved a bunch of money.
It pisses me off because I really wanted the Phillies, so I hope that doesn't change at all. And
you can still take the Phillies.
Well, I'd rather have the Phillies against Tyler Anderson than I would against John Gray in Colorado.
I'd rather have him against Gray, I think.
Really? I love the middle of that order. I'd rather I have a very excessive amount of Joey Bats today, and I don't get the sense that Joey Bats is a great matchup for Sonny Gray.
No, that is true. Yeah, I'm just still concerned about Gray.
John Gray 8,000 today. Any interest there?
No. I'd rather play Derek.
I agree. You say you rather play Derek Holland?
Yeah.
I have double the field of Derek Holland. Man, this slate is so. I recorded the night shift podcast last night, and I had Severino in. I had multiple other pitchers that were in. At one point in time, I got Blake Snell this morning. He pitched yesterday. Fangraphs just boned me trying to put this stuff together. So.
Yeah, it's been like all over the place. Nathan Eovaldi, I'd rather play than John Gray as well.
Nate Eovaldi is the best play on FanDuel tonight.
How much is he?
What's your guess?
Oh my god, I just pulled it up.
Shit. You should have said nothing and just been like 6,400.
Yeah. Wow, John Gray's 6,300 though. That's where I would be interested in John Gray. Like I still am very concerned about his recent pitching performances and the velocity and everything. But 6,300, like he can go off.
Yeah, I like Sonny Gray at 6,900 on FanDuel as well. Like,
yeah, never have to convince me too hard to play Sonny Gray on the road.
Okay,
especially in the Trout.
So we've touched on most of these guys at the top, and I think that we have, a pretty clear consensus. Two guys that are next to each other, at least in the hierarchy of price, but they've got a little bit of a gap. Jack Flaherty, Cole Hamels. Flaherty 10% expected ownership on DK tonight. Hosting a Brewers squad in a game that actually matters. Of all the games that are able to be played in baseball right now, Brewers Cardinals is the one that matters the most. What do you think about Flaherty? I don't really know what to do with him at 9,100.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's tough to get there on this particular slate because of how many aces there are, but he is also really good. I don't think he's as good as he has been for most of the season, and it is a tough matchup, obviously. But there's certainly upside at that price point and low ownership. I mean, the guy's strikeout stuff has been really good. 13.6% swinging strike percentage for the season, 18.8 and 15.5 in his last two starts against the Dodgers and the Braves. That's really, really impressive.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's someone that I think that maybe being slightly overweight on in tournaments is probably a good idea. You don't need to have a ton of him.
Agreed.
But there's certainly upside.
California Cool in the chat is about to catch a 5-minute ban. Would you play Yarbrough at 5,900 on FanDuel versus the Yanks in Tampa Bay? The answer, I assume for you, is going to be absolutely not. I think that is a preposterous thought process.
Yeah, no. It just seems unnecessary. Like, especially with Yarbrough, we've kind of seen cash be all over the place with him. When he does pitch, like Yanni Chirinos, we see him go deep, relatively deep in the games every time. But yeah, I don't know. It's just not a good matchup either.
Chase Anderson now not starting for the Brewers. We're getting Dan Jennings.
This is going to be a fun slate.
Yeah, Dan
Jennings. I
hope
Lockie's having fun writing the article today.
Yeah, for real. Hope he doesn't write it in pen to start.
Right.
Dan Jennings coming off a very illustrious career on Jeopardy. That's Ken Jennings.
Yeah, so bullpen game for the Brewers. That's not fun for the Card. How much is Josh Hader?
I have no idea. I can find out quickly.
If you want to play a relief pitcher, and he's like 4K.
Josh Hader is 4K.
I would rather play Josh Hader than Brian Mitchell.
Don't do that to me now. Come on, man.
If Josh Hader pitches, he outscores Brian Mitchell like what? 70% of the time or something?
Yeah, probably. Oh, God. Don't do that shit to me.
Hader threw 26 pitches on Friday. So
could totally go.
Like,
and they'll probably use him longer than normal if he can go because of the leverage on this game.
Right, the game matters.
Game matters
So
so
here's Freddie
much.
Peralta's in the bullpen too.
Brewers are 2 games up on the Cardinals. And they still have, they're 2.5 back of the Cubs. So they do have a potential to win the division. They win the division 7% of the time per FanGraphs. Oh,
I mean, it's not the Brewers bullpen has enough arms this time of year, obviously, and they have enough good arms. Like I'm seeing Junior Guerra listed in the pen. I'm seeing Freddie Peralta listed in the pen. Brandon Woodruff is available, I would think. So it's not a lock that Josh Hader goes out there and just like throws a ton of innings, but I would think he probably gets in the game for 2, maybe 3 innings, which means he probably picks up 5 to 7 strikeouts.
For real. Why you gotta talk to me like Brian Mitchell like that if I'm gonna end up going with a crazy amount of Brian Mitchell? You know that's gonna mess with my head now for the rest of the day.
It's trying to do you a favor.
I'm gonna have 15+% Brian Mitchell today.
So I guess if Josh Hader doesn't pitch, how often does he outscore Brian Mitchell?
No, that's not. Now you're just now it's not funny. I mean, 10%, right? 10% of the time, Josh Hader not pitching will outscore Brian Mitchell. Is it higher than that?
It's probably around there in AT&T against the Giants. In most parks against most teams, it's probably closer to 20.
Yeah, and that's the only reason that I'm playing Brian Mitchell. It's a very specific set of circumstances. AT&T Park, amazing. Giants lineup, not close to amazing. 3.9 run implied total for the Giants at home. Like all those signs work. 4,200 for the pitcher. I've played shittier people. Maybe.
So the last 3 appearances for Josh Hader, he's gone less than 2 innings, and he is still more than 2x the salary.
Oh, God.
The last last 2 times he went 2 innings, he scored 16.5 and 17.9.
I have Brian Mitchell projected for 12. If he put up 16 or 17, oh my, you'd hear me screaming. California cool. You're not getting any K upside versus the Giants, and they still BABIP bad pitchers. I had the same argument the other day when John Gant was chalk. You can't compare the John Gant chalk to going with Brian Mitchell. The price is the appealing category there, yeah. But I mean, yeah, that's what I'm hoping for. BABIP luck at 4,200. Right. He goes 5 innings and gives up 2 hits because everything just got hit to somebody. Like, I'm good. I'm just good.
Yeah, Brian Mitchell doesn't have strikeout upside against anyone anyway.
Yeah. Even if this were the White Sox, I'm still not confident. What do I have him projected for? Brian Mitchell's projected Ks in this start, I've got it at 4.1. I'll take it. 4.4 Ks and some hit luck. I'm dancing. If that's giving me
what about
more,
like if he's actually getting the start.
4,900, 6% ownership is a lot, I think, for him.
Yeah. I just think he's better than Mitchell, like in terms of talent. The matchup's obviously worse.
He certainly is. You could talk me into it, I guess. It's just the Mariners lineup is just so much better than the Giants lineup.
Oh, yeah. Mangan's a guy that I liked earlier in the year. I don't really remember. It was so long ago that I don't really remember what I saw in him. But
I can't imagine what you saw in him.
I think I like this stuff. He's got, if I remember right, I think he's got a really good curveball. That
his steamer K projection is 6.4 per 9. So I don't know.
I think he's just someone that I liked his stuff, and I thought if he utilized it better, he would.
Looks like his stuff went away.
That's very possible. I'm pulling up Brooks now to try and figure out what the hell I liked in this.
Just in generalities, he pitched 72 innings in 2016 with a 21% K rate. He threw 43 innings last year with a 17% K rate. And now this year he's got 110 innings, some of which in relief, 14.7 K rate.
So I figured out, yeah, so his fastball has like 10 plus inches of vertical movement, which is really good. His curveball has a foot almost of depth on it. So he's got 2 pitches there that have really, really good movement. His slider has pretty decent depth too. Why the hell doesn't this guy get strikeouts?
He gets no strikeouts.
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't make sense. How much he actually throws those pitches. Yes, I mean he needs to throw his curveball more. Against righties this year, 12.2% swinging strike rate on his slider, which isn't great for a slider. 13.5 on his curveball. It just seems like they should both be better. Is he behind the counts a lot?
He has to be, right? I mean, his fastball just gets torched. 252 ISO against his four-seamer this year. Maybe shelve that pitch. Pitch backwards.
Yeah, he's one of these guys that should be just throwing breaking balls.
Yeah. 091 ISO against his slider this year. A 303 slugging. Against his changeup, 082. It's just anything that he's throwing four seams is pretty dreadful. I forgot what he just I feel like someone just needs to send him this link.
Yeah, he needs to just go somewhere with Kyle Gibson, and they need to just throw sliders and do nothing else.
When do you think we'll have the first team that uses, or this could even be happening now, that uses some sort of computer to call pitches from the dugout?
My guess at who the team is would be Houston.
Sure. I mean, Boston, something like that. Some team that is very sabermetrically inclined, the Cubs.
Yeah.
But what should that not be what they're doing instead of having just someone hoping that they're getting that shit in their head sitting behind the plate?
Right. Yeah, you would think.
Just knowing that someone's bad against this stuff, the way that you're getting hit, trying to reappropriate your pitch selection. I would just want somebody to tell me.
Right. Yeah, and but we're also at the point now where there's 4 or 5 teams that have just now figured out throwing breaking balls is really effective. There are still teams that think that limiting your pitch count by pitching to contact is a good idea.
Yeah. Oh,
God. Kevin
pitching
Gausman
to contact is such a weird thing that gets said.
What'd you say?
Pitching to contact is such a weird thing that gets said a lot. Because there was never a time where I threw a pitch in baseball and was just hope a guy gets a piece of this.
Right, yeah. I hope I get a hard ground ball right at my shortstop here.
Yeah, there was never a time where I was just got to let him get the bat on the ball.
Right.
And we'll be fine. Every pitch I threw was, and not that I'm trying to strike everyone out or was trying to strike everyone out, but the goal is that they never put the ball inside the lines.
Right. Yeah, it's just such a weird thing. The White Sox doing it to Chris Sale a couple years ago was just the epitome of insanely stupid. But the Orioles tried it with Gausman this year. You had a guy that threw 97 to 99 miles an hour coming out there throwing 93, trying to pitch like Andrew Kashner.
Which has been going great for Andrew Kashner for the past couple of years.
Right. Andrew Kashner pitching like Andrew Kashner has been a dumpster fire for 5 years.
I've never been a pitch to contact guy.
The
day they start pitching the contact is the day that they start getting that contact.
Right. It doesn't make any sense.
Crazy. All right, Mengden, I'm not going to be on you today, buddy. You don't, unless you listen to this show and understand that you need to get off your fastball and maybe use that in different counts. Doesn't seem to be shaking out for you all that well. Yeah, I think
Derek Holland's one of my guys.
What?
Derek Holland's one of my guys too that
I am doubled up on Holland tonight.
I'm pulling him up now. I just want to see if he's still throwing. I think he started throwing his slider a bunch, and that's when I got on him and started buying into his strikeout stuff. AT&T
and a 3.5 run implied total against the Padres. I really don't even need to do much more digging. 8,000 is not the most optimal price for him, but I think he's got a relatively high floor unless he gets BABIP to death.
Yeah, the price tag's why I'm kind of interested in digging into him, just because I think, with Tyler Anderson out, it changes a little bit for me, but my roster construction would most likely be stars and scrubs. So getting to that mid range, unless I really love the guy, is going to be tough.
Yeah,
He's not throwing it as much.
I'm making it a priority to try to get to the Rockies, the Astros, the Red Sox, the Indians. Like, I just want to be way over the field on some of these teams with
that's fair.
A lot of oomph, and I'll just kind of take the pitching as it comes.
Yeah, Zach Eflin facing a bunch of good lefties in cores is a recipe for disaster.
It is. I really like those Philly bats today, but it has changed. Like, I have to do a whole nother look at this. They grade out so differently. Like,
so I mean, I
had so much Kingery, but because he's 3,000 on DK today, but I don't have as much interest in Kingery against a righty.
Yeah, but you should get like the cheap lefty outfielders in there now, I would think.
Yeah, they were running out all righties.
Yeah,
previously, so that's going to scramble a little bit more. What a crazy day, man. Baseball turning into basketball. Just constant scratches.
I'm pretty excited for basketball. I posted in our Slack, our NBA Slack chat for the first time this year.
I could not be more excited for the NBA to start.
The Hornets beat writer tweeted that Tony Parker will be the backup point guard, but that he will likely be used in closeout situations in the fourth quarter. So, like Kemba at the 2.
So Tony Parker, Kemba, Batum, MKG.
Is Williams even still on the team?
Yeah,
I haven't looked at depth charts.
He is. And then, I mean, what do you do with Zeller?
Kaminsky.
I mean, as much as they would like it to be Kaminsky, he's God, what a MJ, man. I don't care what that trade actually ended up being. If you didn't take 3 first-round picks just because you wanted Frank Kaminsky, you're doing it wrong. that is not a take out of hindsight. Let's see. Hornets salary spot track multi. Boom. God, I love this website.
What website?
Spot track. That's where I go for all my salaries and stuff. Marvin Williams, making $14 million this year and has a player option for $15 next year.
I bet he picks that up.
Gonna do that. I don't know if you listen to Nate Duncan, Danny LaRue, but yeah, he's gonna pick up that player option. Faux show.
Oh, right, Jeremy Lamb. That's who they're talking about getting. They're saying he could actually start this year too.
I mean, the whole team's starting. Then they still have Malik Monk just hanging out.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot they had Hernan Gomez.
What a ridiculous! Oh God, the Knicks so stupid. I forgot they had Biyombo now, but that's just kind of shuffling deck chairs.
Yeah.
All right, so closing lineup is Kemba. Let's say we're putting Tony Parker in that closing lineup, which is a terrible idea in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't really see why you're doing it outside of like veteranosity or whatever.
Marvin Williams almost has to be in that closing lineup, right?
Well, if MKG's healthy, you can play him at the 4.
So we would go MKG, Batum, Zeller.
Yeah.
Parker, Walker, MKG, Batum, and Zeller.
Oh. Assuming Lamb gets taken out because, like, you're taking out Lamb because he can't play defense, but you're putting in Tony Parker.
That is a terrible switch. Parker for anybody in this scenario is terrible.
Yeah,
keep Kemba at the 1. Have MKG, Marvin Williams, Batum, and Cody Zeller. That's your closing 5. I
was thinking, or if you're down, you go Kemba, Lamb, Batum. Williams.
Yeah, there's a way to there's an opposite side of that to get Lamb in there for scoring.
Yeah,
Jeremy Lamb at $7.5 million this year. If it's not going well for the Hornets in the first month or 2, he's going to be a very popular addition to a contender.
Yeah.
What do you do with Malik? We haven't even mentioned like where Malik Monk fits into all of that. He wasn't even a name that we were saying in all of those potential closing lineups. This is the guy that was the 11th, 12th, whatever. The first round draft pick, lottery pick last year.
Yeah, he's buried this year.
He really is, man. That Tony Parker signing, he was probably like, fuck.
Yeah. Tony Parker is already like talking about how Nick Batum needs to be more aggressive too.
Well, he's right.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one to watch too. I know they're like super close.
Yeah, those Frenchies.
Yep.
Got to get this win. What happened here? look, there's not all that much process to talk about in baseball right now with everybody getting swapped in and out. We're gonna do some stuff later this week, a little bit more deep dives into Fantasy Cruncher. I think that doing a walkthrough of Fantasy Cruncher for the NFL will be good coming up this week. Byron's Journey, price on NBA content yet? I assume it'll be the same as MLB or NFL, other sites, or other sports, but I'm not entirely sure right now. I can't imagine it's anything super different. Oh, Hornets. They have so much more talent than you would think they do.
Mm-hmm. I'm just glad they gave the Wizards Dwight Howard.
I like Biyombo here. He's fine. I mean,
Yeah.
he just shouldn't be making $34 million over the next 2 years. I could talk about the NBA all day. We can go through every single one of these depth charts and have a discussion. Maybe we should. Yeah. Maybe we should do that.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it.
Name another team before we get out of here.
Washington.
Okay. Are you a Wizards fan?
Yeah.
Okay. God. I mean, what is there to say, really? It's Wall, Beal, Porter, Keefe, Dwight. Closing lineup, right? They don't really have many other options. They're not going to play Markieff at the 5 in any closing lineups, are they? Can they pull that off?
They did some last year.
Bring Oubre on?
Yeah. Yeah, Oubre.
Actually, you know who they would probably bring on in that scenario? Austin Rivers.
Yeah, I was going to say, I forgot they picked up Rivers. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting this year just because they actually have a bench.
Yeah,
like, Oubre's good.
Satoransky's good, and he doesn't get enough playing time whatsoever.
Yep, Satoransky's good. Rivers, I think, is just a good depth piece. Everyone lost their minds when that trade got made because Austin Rivers sucks, blah blah blah. But it's he's not coming here to play 35 minutes. He's just playing with the second unit, and it was such a bad second unit, especially because Scott Brooks, for whatever reason, got away from staggering and making sure that Beal or Wall was on the floor.
Man, it's going to be a rude awakening for Austin Rivers not having his dad be his coach. I love Otto Porter, man, but he does not fit on this team.
I hate Otto Porter so much. As a Wizards fan, just because he got a max contract, and I hate it.
You know what's really funny? Otto Porter signed a max deal with the Wizards, and it's not the worst contract on their books. And it's not even the second worst contract on their books.
Jan Mahinmi.
Yep. Well, I'd rather have Jan Mahinmi's contract right now than John Wall's.
I love John Wall, though.
Do you want to pay John Wall $44 million in 2021?
Not particularly.
$43,848,000 in 2021. And then, just in case, he's got a $46.8 million player option in 2022. What the funk, man? That is so much money. That is oh God, why just trade him? You should have just trade him to the Pelicans for Drew Holiday and something last year before signing that stupid shit.
Yeah, I forgot about the back end of that.
Yeah, he makes $19 million this year. It jumps to $37.8 next year.
And I'm sure his knees will be in great shape by then.
That's just a contract. You can't sign that deal if you're the Wizards. It's a franchise killer. This is a guy that's never won. And as the leader, and you're just here's $200 million 4 years out. They could have got something for him there and built around Beal and Porter. I hated it at the time. I hate it even more now just looking at this construction.
Yeah, I'd never really paid much attention to it just because I'm a huge Wall fan. So keeping him was I was a big fan of keeping him, but I hadn't really looked at the money aspect.
Look, I like John Wall quite a bit, but something was obviously broken on this team. Something needs a tweak. And after him being out last year and all of the shenanigans surrounding that.
Yeah, him and Gortat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they just never had a competent big. I mean, true. Gortat's fine in the pick and roll, offensively, but
he's a great 20 to 25 minute big.
Yeah, I mean, he's not a rim protector. He's not a good rebounder.
No. How bad does Dwight Howard fail here?
It depends what Dwight Howard wants to do. I think he could be a good fit if he's willing to alter his game and fit more into like John Wall's style of play. If he's going to just go out there and refuse to like even attempt to run the pick and roll and do anything on the offensive end other than stand under the basket, then it's like he still, I think, can be better than Gortat because he can at least rebound and deter people from, scoring at the rim at will.
Let's say that the Wizards season doesn't get off to the best start. I mean, they should be perfectly fine in the East, but let's say it's not going well. Who's the most likely candidate to not be on this team at the end of the season?
Dwight Howard.
Of the big three.
Oh, well, I mean, Porter's not going anywhere. Beal?
Okay. What in the world do you trade Bradley Beal for?
Probably not enough.
Just trying to think about like logical Bradley Beal destinations that would work for other teams as well. Like, do you do Beal to the Lakers for KCP and somebody else's salary ballast and something? I think you could pull something like that off.
Like, and what, getting picks back?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you need some sort of like better version of Markieff Morris.
Yeah.
I mean, $8.6 million now. Markieff on that incredible contract that he signed from back in the Suns days, but this is the last year, so I don't think they're going to be bringing him back at $18 million or whatever the hell he was going to want in the offseason. So you're looking for some sort of like stretchy 4, which is basically what every single team in the league is looking for. So Beal's in a weird spot. Man, that John Wall contract is just an albatross.
They're going to end up having to trade Kelly Oubre, I think, which is going to suck. But like because of the Porter deal, like Oubre is going to end up he's like the only valuable piece they have that is like affordable.
Yeah. $3.2 million this year, restricted next year. Not a great time to be a Wizards fan. I'm sorry.
Never is.
That's probably true. Well, it could be worse. This could be the Crittenton team.
God, yeah.
I got guns too.
Yeah. Yeah, at least we have the Capitals.
Oh, yeah, for real. I don't have anything else to touch on. You've already soured me on Brian Mitchell. You're telling me to take Brewers relievers over the guy that I'm going to have 16% to. T McBee, Beal to the T-Wolves for Jimmy Butler.
Wait, what?
Not a real trade. Sorry.
Oh,
Gotcha. So I don't want to give you a panic attack here. T McBee in the chat said Beal to the Wolves for Jimmy Butler, whichever add-ons make the deal work.
No.
But I mean, would you rather have Jimmy Butler or Bradley Beal right now?
Bradley Beal.
I agree. On this team, Bradley Beal, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how well Wall and Butler would blend. And I think that Beal, Beal would be such an incredible fit on the T-Wolves. A team just starved for shooting.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, that way he can just stand there and watch Andrew Wiggins shoot instead of.
What are some of these teams doing, man?
Baseball related note, I kind of overlooked that Houston was facing Marco Estrada. That's a nightmare for Estrada.
Yeah, that's aggregate ownership on the Astros right now was 7% on DK. That is under the Rockies. That is under the Cubs. It is the third highest number, but I want to be like quite a bit over that.
Yeah, I especially like it just, I mean, one-offs with like if Springer plays, but Bregman, Gonzalez, White, they're pretty cheap too.
Marwin Gonzalez, 3,700, expected to hit 4th.
Yeah.
4% ownership.
Yuli Gurriel's going to stop hitting home runs and go back to being himself at some point, right?
I only had 2 of that double donger. I didn't realize he had so little power.
Yeah.
Or at least project. I don't know, like mentally he was just a different guy to me. I don't know if when did he come out? Or like when did he get plucked off the boat or whatever?
2 or 3 years ago.
So what's his height weight? 6', 190. 2016 was his first season. I'm picturing him. Who was the dude? Tomas for the Diamondbacks?
Yasmani Tomas.
Yeah.
Love that guy.
I feel like I picture him. He was big, right?
Yeah.
Like a hulking dude. Came over probably similar time. 2015.
Couple years before that.
2015 was his first year with Arizona. Oh,
he got me 2 live final seats in 2016. So
really, he's who I picked. 6'2", 250. So that's how I picture Gurriel. And I was like, oh, he hit 2 dongs. And then I looked at his randomness score on in my projections, and Gurriel's was like super low, like 1 or 2 or something. And I was like, all right, I know I have this tied to ISO. Why is he not getting this? And I dug in. I was like, what have I been physically picturing here? If he's just this like non-power hitting dude. It's just one of those things where I had like 2 separate guys just confused in my brain.
Yeah. I did the same thing with him for a while. I think it was just like earlier this year. I kind of figured out, like actually looked at his numbers and was just like, what the hell? But yeah, that day, I even said it on the show. I was like, I like all the Astros here as one-offs except for Gurriel and Marisnik. And I excluded those 2 from my player pool entirely.
Good play. Good play.
Yeah.
That's what we give you here in the process show. Nothing but the best. Whether it's hot Yuli Gurriel takes or deep dives into Luke Giolito, or who else have we been incredibly wrong on lately? Cole Hamels 5 days ago after facing the Diamondbacks AA squad. You don't get these sort of hot takes everywhere, people. You got to come here for the goods. I think we're good here. Maybe we should start planning a nice walkthrough of the NBA coming up.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
I'll make a note of that. That is coming up dangerously quick. When is do you know the first day?
I think it's like the 16th. Preseason starts like the 28th.
That I can't get excited for, but tune into Fast Eddie Fear if you want the preseason content.
Yeah, I normally end up doing like the preseason content with Eddie, and I'm never like super excited about it because I think we've talked about it before that Eddie loves the whole like stalking beat writers thing and like looking at numbers. But it is profitable. I mean, people just make outrageous mistakes.
Well, get excited, everybody. Preseason NBA coming up soon. We will talk about our preseason NBA process on this process show, I'm sure, because I am chomping at the bit to play the NBA. And whatever I can do to make sure that I play 35% Malik Monk in a preseason game because Kemba Walker is going to sit out. Just got to do it sometimes.
If you didn't play preseason NBA last year, you were almost certainly late to the Kyle Kuzma train.
Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah. Kuz was crazy for that first like 6 weeks of the season.
Yeah.
And priced at like $4,000.
Yep.
All right, guys. Best of luck tonight. From A to B coming up at 2:30. Deeper dive 5 to 6. Adam and Laffy breaking down each game one by one, and then Chris and Jake. I will get that right. Laffy certainly won't. They'll be coming up live from 6 to 7. So tune in, check it out. Best of luck tonight, guys. Adios.